Hi everyone, a very good morning to all of you. Today is 26th of December and I welcome you all to the Hindu newspaper analysis discussion video. And guys, first of all, I would like to thank you all. Today we have become a family of 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. I would like to thank you all for such a support that you have shown in us. Now guys, in this today's session, there are some update also that I would like to inform you. Guys, from today onwards, I'm trying to implement one thing which might help you even more is that I'm trying to implement that apart from the Hindu, whatever is there in Hindu, the entire newspaper that we are going to take, that will be continued, but along with the Hindu, I'm also thinking to integrate some of the articles that are there in, for example, PIB. So this article I have taken from PIB. Then this article I have taken from Indian Express. Okay, then there is one more article that I have taken from Indian Express. So Indian Express, PIB, Hindustan Times. Okay, I am thinking that if there are some things which are important for exam point of view, and let's say if they are not covered in the Hindu, I might be taking it up. So please tell this thing that whether it will be helpful or not. And guys, only one thing that as of now, this I am seeing as a pilot project, means I am trying to implement right it on an experimental basis. Only if the response on this thing will be good, will continue it with this. Okay, otherwise we might go back to the old one, that is the entire Hindu only. So it purely depends on the response on this particular thing. Okay, so we'll see if response is good, will continue. Otherwise, whatever was there, it will be continued. That is the Hindu newspaper discussion. So guys, let's start with the analysis. And before starting, I would like to tell you that the entire PDF that I've shown you, you can download it from Telegram channel. Link for Telegram is given in description box in YouTube, and from there you can download this PDF. So guys, let's start with the discussion for today. Now every class we start with the GS quotation, and this particular quotation can be used to complement your answers in the GS papers as well as in essay. So today we'll take quotation from Aung San Suu Kyi. So she says that democracy is when the people keep a government in check. So democracy is not where there are merely the elections that are happening. In those elections, people should have a considerable say. Government should be accountable to the people. Where government's accountability to people is not there we cannot say that democracy is actually functioning. So true democracy depends on accountability, it depends on people's welfare, and the government should owe to the people in terms of welfare, in terms of their development. You can use this particular idea with respect to GS paper number 2, polity and governance, as well as in ethics paper GS4, we can use this particular idea. Now, moving on, and let's take the first article for the today. So, first article that we are going to take is this article, Global Goal on Adaptation and Road from Dubai. Now, this particular article will take with respect to GS paper number 3, environment and developmental issues. Fine. Now, before going in this particular article, guys, I would like to give you some brief background, and once we understand this background, then we'll go in this particular article. So guys, understand this particular thing that you might have already followed this. In fact, I made a video on this thing. Recently, Conference of Parties 28 was held in Dubai. COP28 was held in Dubai. Now, this is the annual meeting of countries who are signatories of UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. As per this COP28, global goal on adaptation was agreed. Global goal on adaptation. Now, guys, understand this particular thing. As of now, the countries, they have agreed in 2015 that in 2015 Paris, they have agreed this particular thing that all countries will try that temperature rise should not go beyond 2 degrees Celsius, and if possible temperature rise should not go beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius. Okay, now point is that, guys, that even if temperature rise will happen to 2 degree, there will be some impacts of that particular thing will be done. Climate extremes will come, tsunamis will come. Okay, there will be certain island nations that will be impacted. Now guys, understand this particular thing that one is mitigation. Now one is mitigation. Okay. Now, when we talk about mitigation, mitigation is how to reduce the deadly impacts or how to cope up, how to cope up. Okay. And how to reduce the deadly impacts. That is mitigation. Then guys, there is other concept, that is adaptation. That is adaptation. Now guys, understand this particular thing, that as climate extremes will happen, temperature rise will happen, the world will be changed and we need to adapt with this new changed world. We need to modify our lifestyles, we need to modify our economies that they can adapt to this new changed order. So adaptation up till now has not been focused. Majority of focus with respect to climate change is on mitigation, mitigating the negative impacts. But on adaptation, how you are going to live in this new changed world, that has not been discussed. So therefore, what has happened, we have agreed on this particular roadmap in COP28, that is global goal on adaptation. Okay. Now this particular article talks about that what are the challenges that are going to be there in achieving this global goal on adaptation. So this is going to be a ready-made answer if a question on GS paper number 3, global goal on adaptation, COP28 or something, if it comes. Now understand this particular thing guys, that understand that as of now, though we have taken the targets that temperature rise should not go above 1.5 degrees Celsius. Okay. But as of now, the type of development trajectory that we have taken on that particular thing, we can see that by the end of the century, the temperature rise should be around 2.8 degree. 2.8 degree. Now, in this particular capacity, IPCC Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change 6th assessment report, IPCC 6th assessment report has very clearly provided this thing that around 3 degrees Celsius temperature rise will happen. So means that we need to learn even more how to live in this changed world. Now, as per this global goal on adaptation, it expects that the parties or the countries, they have to conduct an up-to-date assessment of climate hazards, how they will be impacted by climate. For example, in India, as per IPCC 6th assessment report, it has been said that monsoons will reduce. Now, if I tell you 60% of India's agriculture is of rain-fed nature, means 60% net sown area, they depend on rains, monsoon. And if monsoon will decline, it will impact our agriculture. So we need to modify agriculture in such a way that it becomes less dependent on monsoon. So basically, every country need to see that what climate hazard will be there. So if monsoon will decline, it might lead to drought, it might lead to famine. So this is a climate hazard for India. Some countries might see that the sea level will rise, and let's say there are the island nations. So for them, flooding might be a hazard. So different countries need to see that what climate hazards will be there, what will be the climate change impact on them, what will be the exposure to these particular countries, and in that particular line, they need to come out with a planning process or strategies as how they will adapt with this world, and by 2030 such strategies are to be prepared. After that guys, next target of this global goal on adaptation is also this, that by 2027, all the parties, all the member countries, they need to establish multi-hazard early warning system. Now for example, as we talk about India, you know already India has established a pretty much advanced tsunami forecast system, early warning system. So multi-hazard, which can warn you with tsunamis also, which can warn with respect to the impending landslides and all such kind of a thing. Such systems are to be established, and also climate information services for risk reductions are also to be ensured. So this is something that is done. Now, what are the challenges? What are the challenges in this global goal on adaptation that will come? Number one is that we have seen, see, Millennium Developmental Goals were adopted in 2001. Then Sustainable Developmental Goals were adopted in 2015. So this is not the first time that we have taken such ambitious targets. Many times in the past, ambitious targets have been taken, but they have not been fulfilled. MDG, large number of MDGs, they did not got fulfilled. Sustainable developmental goals, we are lagging behind on many of the sustainable developmental goals. So it has been said that until and unless administrative capacities of a nation will be improved, until and unless nation does not become serious and does not gives money to that, does not comes out with the domestic strategies, these international things will not be sufficient. So point is that first the nations internally needs to work on their capacity building. Number one. Number two, that comes here. Let's see. When we talk about, guys, the mitigation, when we talk about the mitigation, climate adaptation does not have a universal metric. It does not have a universal metric. Now, guys, understand this particular thing, that how to reduce the impact of climate change. There are certain metrics that have been agreed. For example, if CO2 emissions will be reduced, climate change's impact will go down. But in some way, but in the adaptations, there are no universal metric that how you will measure that whether we are adapting or whether we are equipped to adapt or not. So on that particular capacity, there might be certain challenges that will come. The next issue that comes, guys, in this particular capacity is this. See, when we talk about the adaptation plan, for adaptation plan, money is needed. And COP26, Conference of Parties 26, that was held in Glasgow, it also provided this particular thing that the developed countries need to double up the adaptation finance from 2019 level. Okay. But problem that is coming is that developed countries don't seem to be willing that they will share any money with the developing countries. Okay. In fact, in Copenhagen, it was agreed that $100 billion is to be given to developing countries, and this money should have come by 2020, but up till now that has not come. So reluctance by the developed countries to give the money is a very big challenge in this, and developing countries, they don't have money. So this is going to be a big challenge in this particular capacity. Then, guys, the next issue that comes here is that there is also a very strong bias in the favor of mitigation, and it has been said that whatever money has been spent by the countries by themselves, or the money that they have received by the developed countries, majority of money has come for mitigation. And according to a Buckner study, fine, which was published in Climate Policy Initiative, according to this study, the total money that is coming, 95:5 is the ratio of mitigation and adaptation. 95% money is going to mitigation, and only 5% money is going to adaptation. Now, though this particular trend is now changing, and it has been said that, for example, $28.6 billion, $28.6 billion, fine. It has been said that now the countries who have self-reported, they have said that there has been a trend of increasing international adaptation finance, and the share of adaptation has gone to 34% in 2020. So things are changing, but we need to bring change even more rapidly. Okay, so that is about it. And the way forward in this particular direction is that the GGA is encouraging development. It is a positive development for the things that it is talking, but it might just become a talk show. It just might become a kind of another international agreement if suitable strategies are not brought in place, if suitable financing mechanism is not brought in the place. It will just become a useless exercise. So that is all, guys, about it. And now moving on to the next article. Stabilizing frayed ties, yet hurdles ahead. Now, this particular article, guys, we are going to see with respect to GS paper number 2, international relations, and within the international relation, China-US relation will see. Now, China-US relation has a strategic impact on India also, because India is trying to follow strategic autonomy. And in this strategic autonomy, India says that we will follow transactional approach. What is transactional approach? We will not be permanent friend or will not be permanent enemy of any one country. We will see on the need basis that wherever an interest will be fulfilled, will support that nation. So therefore, right now, though China and USA, they are having a confrontation between them, but India is maintaining cordial relations for both. But understand this thing, that if the confrontation between China and USA will go beyond a particular level, then India has to take sides, and then it will be difficult for India. So relations between these two countries have to be seen keeping in mind the India's strategic interest involved. Now, basically, guys, if you see what has happened post Donald Trump came to power, USA China relation declined considerably because Donald Trump started certain policies that were aimed at isolating the China, and then Joe Biden also continued these particular policies. And guys, recently confrontations increased to a high level. Why? Because of multiple developments. Number one, Russia-Ukraine war got started, and in this Russia-Ukraine war, China openly supported Russia. One thing. Second thing that has happened, guys, we have also seen that certain episodic events have also happened. For example, recently what happened a few months back, US Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan. Now, China is very sensitive on Taiwan. China maintains one China principle. According to this, China says that Taiwan is an integral part of China only. Okay, Taiwan is not an independent country. Taiwan is a part of a China only. And one day, Taiwan will unify. One day China will bring Taiwan in its fold. And for that, even if China has to use force, they will use. So Taiwan is not an independent country according to China. So therefore, world countries, if they will recognize Taiwan, if they will maintain the international relation, diplomatic relations with Taiwan, then China will get irritated. Now, guys, when we talk about the Taiwan and US, understand this thing. USA has maintained the strategic ambiguity with respect to Taiwan. What is the strategic ambiguity? US neither says this thing that we recognize Taiwan as an independent nation, nor US says this thing that we don't recognize it. Okay, so they maintain this ambiguity on Taiwan issue. And recently, what happened? Nancy Pelosi, earlier the Speaker of US, she visited Taiwan, and China got irritated because of that. Then after that, what happened? One of a Chinese balloon, it entered in the USA's airspace. USA says it is a spy balloon that China has sent in USA. China says it was a meteorological balloon. Okay, it did not had any spy components on that. So because of that, their relations got declined considerably. Now, guys, as this particular thing is going on, what happened recently in the November, there was a meeting that happened between US President Joe Biden. There was a meeting that happened between US President Joe Biden and Xi Jinping. And in this particular meeting, USA and China has said this particular thing that they will try to stabilize their relationship. They'll try to stabilize their relationships. Defense cooperation, intelligence, defense cooperation, okay, will again be resumed, and all such kind of a things will happen. They have agreed it. But is it really going to hold some ground? Fine, that we have to see. Now, why it is expected that it might not hold ground? Let's understand what are the factors. Number one factor is that, guys, in 2024, both Taiwan and USA are going for elections. And you know that whenever elections happen in any country, nationalism becomes an important thing. And in that nationalism, what happens? Often there are certain statements that are made against the other countries which are seen as adversary, often to appease the people. And in this particular politics, what happens? Many number of times, countries' relations, they get negatively impacted. Now understand this particular thing. That right now, when we talk about the Taiwan, so ruling Democratic Progressive Party that is there, ruling Democratic Progressive Party that is there in the Taiwan, now they maintain cordial relations with USA. And guys, Nancy Pelosi, US Speaker, visited Taiwan during the Democratic Progressive Party government. Okay, so what happened? China does not likes the Democratic Progressive Party. Okay, and the opposition that is the opposition that is contesting elections against them, they are more favorable to China. So China wants that the opposition should come in power. USA wants that the ruling Democratic Progressive Party should continue. They should continue. So this election is going to be a kind of a US versus China election within the Taiwan. And because of this particular thing, US China relation might get impacted. Then next issue that is going on, guys, is also what has happened in past. USA has started, or USA has initiated many of the policies which are aimed at isolating China. For example, what has happened? USA has provided this particular thing that certain technologies, particularly technologies in semiconductors, technologies in artificial intelligence. Okay, they should not be exported to China. They should not be exported to China. High tech industries in USA, they have clearly warned that they cannot export any high-end technology to China. And even other countries which want to maintain cordial relation with US, they have also been warned that you cannot export any high-tech technologies to China. So technological isolation USA is trying to do. Also guys, we see this particular thing. Also guys, we see this particular thing, that the China has very clearly provided this particular thing, that the USA is overstretching the concept of national security, and they are abusing the export control measures and are engaging in discriminatory and unfair treatment. So they say this particular thing, that deliberately they are overstretching everything they are doing against China and justifying it under national security, justifying it under the national interest. China says that they don't want, USA don't want to see China thriving. This is the reason that USA is doing this particular thing. And already I told you that AI technologies, large language models such as Chat GPT, in line of that, these large language models, any technology should not reach to China. This is something that is going on. Now guys, what has happened? China has also taken certain counter steps. What are the counter steps that China had taken? Let's understand that. Now number one, China has specifically provided that rare earth metals will not be exported to America. Now when we talk about rare earth metals, right now China is producing 70% of the rare earth metals, and these rare earth metals are very important for, they are very important for the development of clean technologies, in development of semiconductor processors. These rare earth metals are very important. So China says that will not give you raw material. Also China had said that gallium, germanium, fine graphites, in which also China holds the monopoly, China will not export them. Fine. So this is something that is happening. Now guys, in turn, if we see during the Joe Biden time, Joe Biden actually has followed a systematic approach towards China. And what Joe Biden has done, Joe Biden has brought allies together against China. And for example, we see that quadrilateral security dialogue, Quad, has been strengthened, having Australia, India, Japan, USA. Then AUKUS has been created, Australia, UK, US. Under the AUKUS, nuclear powered submarines will be provided to Australia by the US and UK. Okay, so this is something that they are doing. Okay, but now guys, it is being said that if in 2024 elections, by any chance, if Donald Trump came to the power, relations will become even more chaotic because of the personality of Donald Trump. So this relation will become even more chaotic. Already there are some new issues that are emerging between the US and China apart from the existing ones that we have discussed. And what are the new issues? No, actually the issues are not new. Issues are pretty old, but again now they are getting revived. Again now they are getting revived. So what issues are getting revived? Now guys, here you see in the South China Sea, in the South China Sea. So here you can see that we have the Scarborough Shoal here, and here we have the Spratly Islands. Now on these particular islands, the Philippines-China dispute is going on, and what US is now doing, US is outrightly supporting Philippines against the China. And within the Spratly Island, what has happened, around the Spratly Island, there is the second Thomas Shoal. So second Thomas Shoal and Scarborough Reef, around these within the South China Sea disputes are now again reviving, and there US is supporting Philippines. So therefore again US-China relation can get impacted. Now what will be impact on India, though not given in the article, but you keep it in mind. The impact on India is this, that right now when confrontations are minimal or when confrontations are marginal, India can maintain cordial relations with both and can get its best of the interests served. But once this particular relation will become more ugly, then India has to take a clear side, and there might be a limitation of India's strategic autonomy that might come. So that is something, and therefore these tensions should come down. So that is all about this particular article. And now moving to the next article. Debt debate. Debt debate. Now this particular article, guys, we are going to see with respect to GS paper number 3, macroeconomic fundamentals of Indian economy. Macroeconomic fundamentals of Indian economy. Now, again, before going in this article, let's discuss some basic background information and then we'll go in this article's detail. So basically what has happened recently, IMF has released its outlook for Indian economy. Now guys, understand this particular thing, that IMF as a regular exercise, it discusses the economic, it takes up the economic conditions of our nation and it releases its outlook. Now, what was this outlook? First of all, let's understand this thing. So IMF provided this particular thing. IMF in its report provided this particular thing that under adverse situation, under extreme situation, India's debt will go beyond 100% of its GDP, debt to GDP ratio. Suppose if India's GDP is of 100 rupees and if India's debt is also 100 rupees, then India's debt to GDP ratio has become 100%. Okay, so basically it has been provided that India's debt in comparison to its GDP might reach 100% by 27-28, and there is a possibility that it can go beyond 100% also. Now, because of this particular estimate that was given, what happened, many of the economists, they came and they pointed this particular thing that government has not been effective to carry out, to take forward the economy post pandemic. Okay, so this is something that has happened. Now, after IMF released this report, Finance Ministry came out and gave a justification. And Finance Ministry provided this particular thing that you need to keep it in mind that IMF has given the extreme case scenario. It is not a likely scenario, it is an extreme case scenario. Also, Finance Ministry has said this particular thing that often IMF's forecast datas, they are exaggerated also. Often they gave even a very negative kind of a worst case scenario. So we are going to analyze in this particular article that whether really Indian economy is facing a kind of an economic crisis or is it just a warning that has been given. So here guys, we have certain justifications given by Finance Ministry. Now Finance Ministry number one says this particular thing that number one, it is just a worst case scenario and it is not going to happen. Secondly, they have said this thing that big economies, they had debt higher than the GDP and it is not a very big problem, and those economies are considered a stable economy. For example, they say that if we take the example of US, UK, China. So you see this particular thing that US says debt compared to their GDP is 160%. UK's debt compared to GDP is 140% and China's debt compared to the GDP is 200%. Okay, so these economies are the big economies and they have a higher debt compared to their GDP. So that is not a very big problem. Moreover, if we see the present situation of India, where we are standing right now, you see this particular thing that combined debt of central and state government, it stood at 81% of the GDP in 2022-23. Okay, it was 88% in 2021. So from 88% we have come down back to 81%. So this is an improvement that has happened with respect to the India's macroeconomic situation. And the IMF has also said this thing that it can go down to 70% by 27-28. So there are the scenarios, worst case scenario and best scenario. Worst case scenario, right now we are standing at 81%, we can go to 100%, and best we can go back to 70%. So this is also a possibility that is there. Moreover, if we see guys what has happened in the past 2-3 years, situation of economy has not been that much good, and it is largely because of the global factors that are not in the control of India. And in this capacity, you know this particular thing that first of all, pandemic happened in 2020. Post pandemic Russia Ukraine war started. Okay, and global inflation has already started. So because of all these particular things, Indian economy has negatively impacted. It is not only the fault of Indian economy. So this is something that has been provided. Okay, so this is about it, and this is guys all about this particular situation. Fine, I hope that you have understood it. And now let's go to the next article. Railway officers to be trained in disaster management. Academy Institute to give training. Now we'll see this particular article with respect to the GS paper number 3. GS paper number 3, infrastructure and disaster management. GS paper number 3, infrastructure and disaster management will take this particular article. Now guys, first of all, before going in this particular article, let me give you some basic background information and then we'll go in the article's detail. So you have recently seen that there was the Odisha train accident that happened, and in this railway accident we have seen that 290 passengers, okay, 290 passengers, they died and many others they got injured. And it was provided that this was a big disaster, but response of the railways post this disaster was not very much good. It took a lot of time to clear the track, it took a lot of time to resume the railway traffic, it also took a lot of time to provide the assistance to people who have got injured, who have got impacted in this particular mishap. So railways capability to tackle disasters need to be enhanced. Okay, now guys, in this particular capacity, what has happened, now the decision has been taken, and it has been provided that disaster management will now be incorporated as an integral component of the training module for the railway officers. So when the railway officers they attend their induction program or when they attempt their foundation course program before joining the service, they will be given a module training in disaster management, and also existing railway officers, they will be given mid-level training for disaster management so that they can tackle disaster management effectively in case of accidents that happen. Now, in this particular capacity, who will be the nodal agency, nodal organization? So basically, National Academy of Indian Railways, Vadodara, and Indian Railway Institute of Disaster Management, Bangalore. These two organizations would work together and will provide the training program for disaster management. So please keep these two organizations' names in your mind, because such kind of a thing could be asked in your prelims examination, in your prelims examination under the current affairs. So this is guys about it. Also, one more thing is there guys, that see, when we talk about GS paper number 3, infrastructure, within that railway reforms happens to be an important topic. Now, one particular committee's recommendation I would like to tell you, and this is the latest committee on railway that has been constituted. So basically, in the aftermath of this railway accident in Odisha, what happened? A.M. Chaudhary committee was constituted. A.M. Chaudhary committee was constituted, and this A.M. Chaudhary committee has given its report that how railways could further work on the safety measures. So what are the findings of this A.M. Chaudhary report? So what are the findings of this A.M. Chaudhary report? Let's see these particular things. Number one, they have provided that railway board should review the system of disaster response in the zonal railways. Okay, it should review, it should overhaul the disaster response. Number one. Number two, they have also provided this particular thing, that the coordination of railways with the disaster management agencies need to be reviewed. And it has been said that standard operating processes needs to be established, that how effectively railway and national disaster response force or railway and state disaster response force, how their better coordination can be achieved, how their better engagement can be brought out. This is something. Then also, A.M. Chaudhary committee report has provided this particular thing, that Indian railways need to have an efficient safety organization and an officer who will specifically be responsible for the compliance of safety guidelines and coordinating with the different agencies in the event of an exigency. Now guys, let's say that a railway accident happened. Now disaster response force has to be contacted, fire department has to be contacted, hospitals have to be contacted. So all these different agencies have to be contacted. So for that particular thing, there need to be a concerned person, fine, okay, efficient safety organization and a responsible officers need to be there. And then next, that they have provided this particular thing, that see, in the case of any railway accident, there are relief trains. Now these relief trains are stationed at all the major stations in the different parts of the country, and they reach wherever the accident has happened. But apart from, now this is a good thing for which A.M. Chaudhary committee has appreciated the railways, but they say this particular thing, that the focus should be on restoring the railway traffic as soon as possible. Okay, so because we know this particular thing, guys, that now if I tell you, if you don't know, according to Sam Petroda committee report, a large number of Indian railway tracks, they are running at the efficiency of more than 100%. They are running at the efficiency of more than 100%. In some cases, they are running at the efficiency of 120%, 140%. So it actually becomes a very big problem when a railway mishap happens and this entire railway route becomes inoperative. So these are some of the recommendations that have been given. Now, guys, at least I want that if a question is coming on this line, you should use these committee reports names. Okay. Now, moving on in this capacity to next article. India-ASEAN to rejig 15-year trade pact in early 2024. Now, basically, guys, when we talk about the India and ASEAN, ASEAN stands for Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Now, since 2009, India and ASEAN countries, they have signed a free trade agreement. Now, when we talk about a free trade agreement, by the free trade agreement, both the countries agree to reduce the tariff as well as the non-tariff barriers, okay, so that trade could be increased. Now, India-ASEAN free trade agreement was signed in, first of all, when we talk about the ASEAN, we have Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Brunei, Vietnam, Laos, Myanmar, Cambodia. Now, with these 10 ASEAN countries, we have signed a free trade agreement in 2009. Now, guys, as of now, when we talk about the trade with these 10 countries, it is huge. 11.3% of India's global trade in 22-23, it was happening with ASEAN. India's 11.3% of the global trade was happening with the ASEAN. So obviously this region is very important from the trade point of view for India. Now there is one concern that has developed, that over the past 15 years we have seen this particular thing, that because of this free trade agreement, ASEAN countries got more benefit of India. They got more benefit. They got easy entry in India. And what has happened, India's trade deficit has actually increased. Now let's see what is the trade deficit for the India when we compare the trade with this particular region. Now, guys, understand this particular thing, that India's trade deficit with this particular region was $7.5 billion per annum in 2009. Okay, trade deficit was there, means we are actually importing more from these countries and we are exporting less. So trade deficit was there. But trade deficit now has increased to $43.5 billion in financial year 23. So from 7.5 to $43.5 billion means that after signing of this FTA, they got more open access to Indian economy. India's trade deficit is increasing. India did not got that much benefit. So we want to review this particular free trade agreement. We want to review this particular free trade agreement. Now, basically, what has happened already, ASEAN countries have agreed that ASEAN-India Trade in Goods Agreement, ATIGA. Okay, so keep in mind when this ATGA comes in news, it means that the ASEAN-India FTA they are talking about. So ASEAN-India Trade in Goods Agreement, it will now be rediscussed, it will now be renegotiated, and first round of negotiation will start in 2024, and it is expected that by 2024 all the negotiations will be completed. Now it has been provided that in order to make this FTA more efficient, what will be happening? New rules and trade remedies will be brought out. New rules and trade remedies will be brought out so that India is not at a disadvantage. However, new areas as of now will not be added. For example, labor, environment, okay, SMEs, okay, or whatever the new areas now are becoming which are coming out, they will not be brought. Existing areas, but within those existing areas, rules will be changed, but new areas will not be brought out. Okay, so this is something that is there. Now, guys, more details about this FTA will come out once this discussion will start in 2024. February it will start. So as of now, this is all the facts and the information that we have with respect to this. Okay. Now, moving on in this particular capacity. Okay. Now here we have one particular article which is important. I have taken from PIB, Press Information Bureau. Now what the article is talking about? Ministry of Tribal Affairs initiates IEC. IEC stands for Information Education Communication. IEC campaign on Pradhan Mantri Janjati Adivasi Nyay Maha Abhiyan PM Janman. PM Janman. So IEC campaign on PM Janman is now being started to raise awareness and to ensure 100% saturation of government schemes in PVTG majority tribal habitations. So this particular article we will see with respect to prelims examination current affairs as well as GS paper number 2 social justice also we can take this particular article. So GS2 social justice and current affairs prelims. So let's take this particular article as what the article is talking about and let's understand this thing. So basically guys, understand this particular thing that often schemes are there, but the problem is that people A don't have an awareness about a particular scheme. So even though scheme is there, but they are not able to take the advantage of that. Sometimes implementation of scheme is not there. So in India, you will not find a problem that we don't have scheme, we don't have special provisions, we have them, but implementation is problem or people's awareness about those schemes is problem. They don't know that for them a particular scheme is existing. So awareness is very important. Now guys, when we talk about the tribals, we have the concept of PVTG. Now what are PVTG? PVTG stands for particularly vulnerable tribal groups. Particularly vulnerable tribal groups. And there are such 75 particularly vulnerable tribal groups that have been identified. And these PVTGs, they are even more backward, they are even more downtrodden compared to other tribal people. Now, understand this particular thing that under this PM Janman, what government Ministry of Tribal Affairs will focus? It will focus on 18 states and 1 union territory, 75 PVTG communities, 7 lakh households, 28 lakh people, okay, and 9 ministries, with them the convergence will be done. Okay, and 24,000 crore rupees have been allocated. Now, first of all, guys, I think that this might not be clear here, maybe because of color. So please download the PDF. In that, it will be visible to you in a very crisp manner. Now, understand what you need to know about the PM Janman. Now, see, understand, suppose I want to, for example, there is a scheme by the name of National Food Security Act. Under National Food Security Act, 66% population of the country will get the free food grains. Earlier, they were subsidized. Recently, government came out with the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana, and by that they have been made free for next 5 years, that is till 2028. So as of now, under National Food Security Act, you can avail the free food grains. But for that, you need to have a ration card. If I don't have a ration card, I cannot avail the food grains. So this is one document that I need. In the same way, guys, the tribal people, there are schemes that are existing. They have two problems. Problem number one, they don't know about the scheme. Problem number two, if they know about the scheme, they don't have basic documentation to avail that particular scheme. Now, both of these particular things will be solved under this PM Janman program, PM Janman scheme. Now, what will be done under this PM Janman? Understand this particular thing. This campaign aims at saturating PVTG families with individual entitlements and habitations with basic facilities. Number one. Number two, what will be happening under this particular campaign period? Basic document, Aadhaar card, community certificate, Jan Dhan accounts will also be provided. Now, first of all, a question might come that what do we mean by saturating the PVTG family? Now, let's take this particular thing. For example, there is, let's say, a particular scheme. Let's say there is an X scheme. Now, this particular scheme has been brought for a particular community. Let's say in this particular community, 10,000 people are there. And we want that all these 10,000 people should take the benefit of this particular scheme. But we find that actually out of the 10,000, only 1,000 people has enrolled under this particular scheme. Means only 10% of the people have enrolled in the scheme. Only 10% of the people have enrolled in this particular scheme. So what is thus what is to attain saturation in this particular scheme? Means that at least 90 to 95% people who are eligible for a scheme should enroll in that. So what is a saturating in terms of scheme? Means the scheme, for whatever section it was meant, 90 to 95% of the section should get enrolled in that particular scheme. So understand this particular thing, that we have these particular schemes. Now see, there are a lot of schemes for the tribal people, lot of schemes are there for the tribal people, but here we are focusing under the PM Janman, we are focusing in this particular scheme. Let's understand this thing. Sabko pakka ghar, sabko pakka ghar means every person or every family should be provided a pakka house. Okay, a permanent shelter is to be provided. हर घर नल से जल, पाइप्ड ड्रिंकिंग वाटर शुड बी प्रोवाइडेड. गांव गांव तक सड़क, एवरी विलेज शुड बी प्रोवाइडेड द रोड कनेक्टिविटी. हर घर बिजली, एवरी होम शुड हैव एन इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कनेक्शन. शिक्षा के लिए हॉस्टल. फाइन, you already know that for example Eklavya residential model schools are being already started where residential facilities are provided. So shiksha ke liye hostel education. कौशल विकास, that is the skill development. दूर दराज गांव तक मोबाइल मेडिकल यूनिट. फाइन, all the far flung areas should be provided the mobile unit, medical unit, ambulance, etc., or any such kind of a medical facilities to be provided. Then next is सबको पोषण, means nutrition for all. उन्नत आजीविका, सस्टेनेबल लाइवलीहुड. दूर दराज गांव तक मोबाइल नेटवर्क. Okay, so mobile connectivity. Okay, so these are the specific focus. Now see, these are some of the essential schemes. Okay, these are some of the essential entitlements that have to be given to tribal people. But there are two problems. Problem one, they don't know about these programs. Problem number two, if they know about these programs, they don't have basic documentation. For example, they don't have Aadhaar card, they don't have a ration card, they don't have other documents, whatever is needed, community certificate, etc., that is needed. So under this PM Janman, what is going to be done? Under this PM Janman, what will be done? So basically there will be the dedicated camps that will be established, and these particular camps will do two things. Number one, they will provide them awareness about the schemes which are existing for them. Secondly, once they have been given awareness, they will also be provided the help to avail basic documents that they need to avail these particular schemes. So these are the twin objectives of this particular scheme that is there. Okay, and 9 ministries are involved. Now obviously guys, you know that these schemes are being operated by different ministries. Somewhere Ministry of Tribal Affairs is there in some scheme, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare is there in some scheme, there will be other ministry that will be there. So this is about the PM Janman. Okay, so for now guys, if you will read the headline will make sense to you. Ministry of Tribal Affairs, let me read it for you. Ministry of Tribal Affairs initiates IEC. IEC means Information, Education, Communication Campaign on Pradhan Janjanti Adivasi Nyay Maha Abhiyan to raise awareness and ensure 100% saturation of government schemes in PVTG tribal habitations. Okay, so that is about it. Now moving to the next article guys. Women participation in MG NREGA continues to rise 59% this fiscal. So this article you can use with respect to GS paper number 1 and 2, women related issues, social justice, as well as GS paper number 3, women labor force participation rate. You can use this particular data. So basically guys, first of all, when we talk about the MG NREGA stands for Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Under MG NREGA, 100 days of paid employment is to be provided to every household. Keep it in mind, not individual household. 100 days of paid employment is to be provided to every household. This scheme is available only for rural areas as of now. We don't have any urban scheme, though some state governments have introduced the scheme. For example, Rajasthan government has introduced, but a pan-India level urban scheme is not there. It is a rural component. Secondly, any person can ask for the 100 days of paid employment. It is not necessary that a person has to be from scheduled caste community or scheduled tribe community or OBC community or some specific community. That is not the case. It is available for all. Now, when we talk about the MG Narega, under MG Narega, this particular thing has been there from the start, that actually more women have been enrolled in this particular scheme. And out of the total work days that are given, women are availing the majority of the work days, and this number is going up continuously. Now guys, what has happened? The data for 23-24 has been released, and as per this data for 23-24, it has been provided that out of the total work that was given, total work days that were generated, 59.25%, 59.25% were availed by women. So this scheme has emerged as a women-centric scheme, providing employment to women. Okay. Now, when you see guys here, if we see in the last 10 years, women have been above the 50% mark. Women have been above the 50% mark. However, we see this particular thing that in 2020, 2021, in 2020, 2021, the number was at lowest, that is 53.19%. It is because of the impact of the COVID pandemic, but other years it has increased and now it has come to 59.25%, which is good. Now, guys, when we talk about state level variations, they are also there. For example, when we talk about the southern states, their number of women participation is even more better. For example, if we take example, we have the example of Kerala, where out of the total work that was generated in MG Narega, 89% was given to women. In Tamil Nadu, out of total work in MG Narega, 86% was given to women. In Puducherry, it was 87% and likewise. Now, when we talk about the worst performing state, here we have Jammu and Kashmir, UT, where only 30.47% work was availed by women, and Lakshadweep only 38.24%. And in terms of the state, if we talk about, so the poor performing states were Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra. Okay. Now understand this particular thing, guys, that in general, women labor force participation rate has also increased. And as we talk about the women labor force participation rate, recently periodic labor force survey report was released. So as per the latest periodic labor force survey report, and it was released for the period of June 2022, for the period of July 22 to June 23. And as per this periodic labor force survey report, female labor force participation rate has increased to 30.5%. 30.5%. Unemployment rate also in the women has declined to 1.8%. Okay. So these are some encouraging numbers. And guys, I want that you please use this particular data in your answers. Please use this particular data in your answers. So that is about it. Then guys, moving on. First rupee payment for oil to UAE. India looks for more deals. No target, says official. Now, understand this thing, that there is a concept of internationalization of rupee. Internationalization of rupee. Now, guys, India is aiming to make rupee a global currency. Today, you know this thing that the majority of trade is happening by dollar. Oil trade, oil transactions are being settled in the dollar. Even when we talk about India, guys, 85% of India's oil and gas, India imports. Therefore, India has to give a lot of money for this, and this money is to be given in the terms of dollar. Because of this particular thing, India's foreign exchange reserves decline. So India is coming out with an arrangement that we should be giving rupee. Suppose we are buying oil from Saudi Arabia. Let's say we are buying oil from UAE. Rather than giving dollar, if we have to give rupee, transaction cost will come down, conversion cost will come down. Also, it will increase the acceptance of rupee, and therefore internationalization of rupee will happen. So therefore, government is trying to forge, government is trying to sign this particular agreements with multiple countries. For example, guys, what has happened in the past with the Russia, we have signed the rupee ruble arrangement. As per this rupee ruble arrangement, it was agreed that trade that will happen between between Russia and India, the transactions will be settled in the rupee and ruble. Then we have signed an agreement with UAE also, that the oil that will import from them, we will settle the money in the terms of rupee. And India has already made first ever payment in rupees for the crude oil that we have purchased from UAE, that we have purchased from UAE. Okay, now guys, understand this particular thing, that when we talk about India, for energy imports, India is following three-step strategy, three-pronged strategy. What is this three-pronged strategy? Number one, we will buy the cheapest oil wherever it is available. See, 85% of our oil and gas demands we have to meet by import. So we are buying cheapest, and in that capacity, when Russia was giving us discount, we bought liberally from Russia. Second, diversify. Will not be dependent on any one or two country. Will diversify. Will go to West Asia, will go to Russia, or wherever it is possible. And then don't breach the norms. Now, for example, USA imposed the price cap on Russian oil. USA imposed the price cap on Russian oil. India ensured that such norms should not be breached, though in between the reports came that India has bought the cheaper oil. But India tries that as far as possible, any international norms, if they are there, should not be breached. Okay, and then guys, one more angle that has come here is that India is signing more and more deals with the countries so that the transactions with those countries can be done in the India's domestic currency, that is rupee. So this is something that has happened, and you should be knowing about this particular thing. So for example, a question might come in your prelims examination that with which country recently India has transacted in rupee for the oil purchases. So it is UAE. Okay. Saudi Arabia also we are trying to finalize a deal, but as of now, the payment has been made to UAE. Okay, so here there is one article that has come. Now we'll see this particular article as a case study for social justice. We'll see this particular article as a case study for social justice. Now, what is this article? What the article reads? Let's first of all read the article. Consult Jawan producers to see if the movie could be made disabled friendly on OTT, over the top platforms, that is Amazon, Netflix, such like this. Now, let's understand this particular article. Before going in this particular article, let's first of all know how a movie or a picture or a TV program can be made disabled friendly. So, number one, there might be people who are unable to hear. There might be people who are unable to hear. For these people, there should be the closed captions. Not only subtitles will help, closed captions. Now see, what is happening? Suppose there is a scene in a movie in which it's raining outside. Now, if I can hear that it's raining because sound effects will help me to know that. But if a person is not able to hear, how the person will know that it's raining in the background? How a person will know that a footsteps are approaching the room? So there needs to be the descriptive explanations that footsteps are approaching. It is raining outside. So describe the background noises through text. Fine, this is a closed caption which will help the people who cannot hear. Then audio description, verbal depiction of key visual elements in a scene. Okay, suppose a person cannot see, a person is hearing the dialogues between the people and all such kind of a thing. But if suppose the hero or protagonist is making some gesture, now that gesture a person cannot see. So therefore that also should be explained, that now the person has entered the room. Okay, so the background narration should be there. This is called as audio description, and then subtitles. So in every movie, such thing is to be done. Now question comes in your mind that why it is to be done. Now understand this particular thing, guys, that in order to achieve disabled friendly society, such things have to be done. And now let me give you certain points, and please note down them in your notebook. They are not given in the article. Listen this particular thing. Guys, see, we have now guys, see this particular thing. We have just give me a minute. Okay. So number one is United. Okay, I hope my voice. Yes. United Nation Convention on Right of Person with Disabilities. United Nation Convention on Right of Person with Disabilities. We have this. Now, as per United Nation Convention on Right of Person with Disabilities, the nations need to ensure that they make disabled people, that disabled people should be able to accessible the infrastructure, physical infrastructure, as well as the soft accessibility is to be provided. Okay, means that they should be able to access the books, they should be able to access the learning resources and all such things. Then Incheon strategy is there that India has signed. This also focuses on making disabled friendly society on all the fronts. Then India has adopted the inclusive developmental goals. And Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan was launched in 2016, which aimed to make a disabled friendly society, and there they should be given the accessibility of physical infrastructure as well as soft accessibility of content, digital content is to be given to them. Also guys, in 2016, we have amended our Right of Person with Disabilities Act, and in 2016 we came with the new Right of Person with Disabilities Act 2016. And in this particular act there is section 42. It states that the government shall take measures to ensure that all content available in audio, print and electronic media should be accessible to people with disabilities, should be accessible to people with disability. So therefore all the media, movies, etc. need to take immediate steps that such things are to be provided. Okay, so this is guys all about this particular article. So the case study as an example in social justice, you can use it. And now moving on, and let's take the answer for question for today. Implementing global goal on adaptation GGA needs more urgency in terms of treating adaptation on par with mitigation in the face of extreme climate events. GS paper number 3, environment. Okay, so that is all guys about it. With this we come to an end to this session. And guys, if you have liked, please do tell me that whether should we continue taking up the articles from the other newspapers also or not. And again I'm saying that if a good response is there on this, we'll continue. Otherwise we might revert back, because I want to make a program which is beneficial to you. Okay, so if it is benefiting you, obviously we'll take it up. So that is about it. So with this we come to an end. If you have liked the video, please hit the like button. Now we'll meet tomorrow. Till then, please take care of